In the previous video with that BOSE CD changer, we noted that one of the pins was broken on the multi-connector that transfers audio from the CD changer to the deck. Unfortunately, that part is not available as a service part. So I'm going to show you how you can make the unit work by adding an external auxiliary cable to the CD changer. Now, if we remember this from before, if you notice the pin down there on the right is broken off, that's for I think that was the left channel. So we're only getting sound from the CD changer on the right channel. That cord is not available as a separate piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can get an external output from the back of the CD changer and plug it into the auxiliary input. And it's going to require a little bit of a modification. We're going to have to cut that right lug off of that multi-connector so that we can plug an external audio source in, but it does require a modification to the radio as well to bridge that auxiliary input over to the multi-connector so that we can make use of it. Now, this will only work if one of the pins that's broken is one of the audio pins. Obviously, if it's one of the data pins that controls a CD changer, you're going to have to send the multi-unit to BOSE, because they will not sell you that cable, but they will repair it for you at their price. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a 3.5mm jack to the output of the CD changer so we can plug it into the radio unit itself. But first we have to cut the connector apart here. This is the multi-connector has this extension on it to block access to that auxiliary jack, because normally when you are using the CD changer, on the back of the CD changer there's two auxiliary inputs, so the auxiliary on the unit itself is actually not active. So we need to cut that apart with the side cutter so that we can actually put a plug into the back of the radio. And now we need to get the audio from the changer out and feed it to that jack. So we're going to scope and see which of these pins are the ones that carry the audio. So here we go. The white and the blue. So what I'm going to do now is the white and the blue wires, which I've already cut, that we're feeding into the multi-cable, I'm going to extend those wires so I can put a 3.5mm plug on the other end. So I'm just going to prep the wires, strip them back here, tin them, and then we'll put some heat shrink tubing on and join it into the white and red for the external audio. So I'm just going to put some solder on the end of the wire here, pre-tin it, just to make soldering it a little bit easier. That'll work. Going to get this out of the cabinet. I'm just going to run it right through the actual. Probably take it right through the edge of this corner here. Just run the cabinet over top of it. That'll lock it in place. Okay, now this has the mod to the CD changer done, but now we have to modify the radio itself so that when you put it in CD mode, it'll actually take the audio from the now functional auxiliary input that we have to re-enable, but we have to jump it over to the multi-connector. So the radio opens up quite easy. Just remove the, I guess it's 5 screws in the bottom, and the top will then lift right off the top of the radio. And we do need to remove the power transformer and the speaker and the display, and then everything else should just fold open. So first we remove the screw in the top there and then remove the power transformer. We are not going to unplug the power transformer because I need to run the unit so that I can determine which are the inputs. Speakers lift straight off, and to get the speakers, to get clearance, we're going to need to remove the display from the front as well and undo the speaker plugs at right there below my right hand. So we remove the two screws from the front of the display, and the display will just lift away. And now I'm able to just lift the speakers off. There's nothing that holds the speakers in place. Now, as you can see, I can lift the actual CD player portion out. The CD itself is not secured down. It's sitting on rubber mounts. I have to remove 4 screws from the circuit board. So I'm just going to lift the CD player apart here. And there's no need to disconnect anything to do this. Everything's got ribbon cables there. So I'll remove the CD player. And I'm going to remove the 4 screws on the circuit board so that I can tip the circuit board forward and access the base of it to put my jumper wires in to make the auxiliary input active when it's in multi-CD mode. So once the screws are removed, it's just a matter of lifting the circuit board up and swinging it out of the way. Now, it's going to be easier if we disconnect the speakers here at this point. So I'm going to use headphones to determine, because I don't know which pins are the actual active input. So I'm just going to remove the speakers. I'm going to plug some headphones into the headphone plug and play a CD. Well, use my tone generator actually to find it, but we got to get the board. It's got to be prepped so that we can power the unit up. So I'm just going to set the unit up, put a piece of paper in so that between the heatsink and the grounds and so forth, just to make sure that nothing shorts out while I'm working on it. But I do need to connect it to the CD changer so that I can actually power the unit up, because at this point, I don't know which of the 2 pins on that multi-connector are the audio inputs, and that's what I need to determine before I can continue this minor modification. Okay, the 2 that I need to bridge is the left channels here and the right channels here. So all I gotta do is bridge a wire over to that, and I should have my sound from the CD player. So let's plug in the auxiliary cord here carefully, and let's just confirm what I think I already know. Left channel is this one. Okay, so I gotta bridge a wire from here to there and there to there. Okay, from there to there, and from there over to there. If that's what I just mapped out. Oh, sorry, that one. The one on to the right. That was the ground pin. It's actually this one here. That one to that one, and that one to that one. Those are the 2 wires I have to put in to get the sound through from the auxiliary jack onto the multi-connector. So we'll do that, and then that should be able to put this thing to bed. And for the other channel, it's this one here. Now I'll do a test to make sure I got sound on both my headphones, and then I can put the radio unit back together and test the whole thing out. So I'm just waiting for this thing to go through its cycle of checking discs. And I've confirmed that everything's working, so now let's put the radio together. So we'll just put the radio back together now after doing the modification to bring the auxiliary into the multi-connector. And again, this is one of the things I dislike about BOSE. As I've said before, BOSE is a closed shop, and the products they make aren't bad, the ones that they make in-house, but the big problem that I have with BOSE, and a lot of other people have the same problem, is that like Apple, BOSE is a closed shop. So if you want to fix it, you gotta send it right to BOSE. Now they're like Apple, right? It's fine when it works, but in this case of this one, the ribbon cable, or not the ribbon cable, the multi-connector cable. Speaking of ribbon cables, I better be careful I don't damage that one. The multi-connector cable that connects between the CD player and the main unit, a pin got bent, broken, and it just plugs in. Just a matter of unplugging it from the board and changing out that little 6-inch piece of wire. And when the owner of this unit contacted BOSE to say, hey, I need to get this wire, well, BOSE first of all asked him for the serial number of his entire radio unit. So he calls me up to get the serial number, and I give him the serial number, and he calls me back and he says, yeah, BOSE say no problem, just send us the CD changer and we'll replace the cable for you. So they won't sell the part, but they'll repair it. I got a big problem with companies that do that. I really do. It's a closed shop. Apple's the same. You know, it has to go to one of their authorized service departments, and if you don't send it to their authorized service department, well, they won't sell you the part. And that's the biggest beef I've got about BOSE personally, is I think that that's wrong. I mean, these units are very serviceable, and the normal parts, like I've changed the power IC in one of these before, the power IC back here. I had one of those a while ago. I changed the power IC in. But I don't like their policy if they won't sell you parts. If you can get generic parts, great, but if you can't, it's a situation where it's a specific part, like a patch cord, a cable, well, you're kind of screwed. They got you over a barrel, and if you want it fixed, you got to send it to them and pay their price. And I have a problem, and I think a lot of people also have a problem with that policy. But that's the way it's done, and they've just taken a page out of Apple. And that particular policy, I think, is bad. But other than that, these radios they're not a bad unit for what they are. And I think most people that own them are fairly happy with the performance they get from them. Okay, let's test it out now. Got both speakers. Perfect. Excellent. So, turn this thing off here before I get... I'll put this off. Okay. So, if you have one of these units and you break one of the pins that feeds audio, obviously if you break one of the pins that feeds data to the CD unit, you're screwed. But if you break one of the pins that sends audio and you've only got one speaker, it's relatively easy just to cut into that wire, add yourself a new one, plug it into the auxiliary, but remember you've got to take the radio unit apart and bridge over the two connections from the left and right audio input to the left and right input on the multi-connector. Pretty simple to do if you break one of those pins that feeds audio. Again, if you break one of the ones that feeds the data over, well, that's a different story. Then you're going to be sending your radio or sending your multi-changer off to BOSE and paying their price because they won't sell you this cable. Thanks for watching.